To the big story from West Bengal, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has yet again extended an invitation to junior doctors for talks at 5 p.m. today. An email invitation has been sent to junior doctors by the Chief Secretary's office this time around. Remember, last time it was the Health Secretary whose office had sent out that email, and several doctors were actually angered because they were protesting against the Health Secretary, demanding his resignation. It's the fifth invite. Will it be the final one? And will the West Bengal government be able to broker peace? That's the million-dollar question that still needs to be answered. Let's go right across to Saurabh joining us with the very latest. Saurabh, Mamata Banerjee, who was made to wait for 2 hours after the last meeting, actually offered to resign when talks failed with the protesting doctors. She's once again invited them for talks. So what are we likely to see happen now?
Well, you know, the first letter was, of course, written by the Health Secretary. But since then, of course, it's been the Chief Secretary who's been communicating with the protesting doctors. And what we know so far is that this is the fifth and final sort of attempt before the Supreme Court hearing on Tuesday, which will take up this RG Kar issue. Now, the protests are still on. The letter from the Chief Secretary has come. And now, of course, the doctors will decide on whether they want to respond to that letter or how they want to respond to the letter. There are a couple of things that need to be noted here. On Saturday, when the meeting did not happen, initially, the doctors had stuck to their demand of live streaming and video recording, something that the government had said was not possible. But towards the end, right before they left, they had agreed to a meeting where live streaming or video recording would not take place. Minutes of the meeting would be signed. Now, obviously, this is something that was a position that they'd taken. Whether they take the same position today or not, or whether they again go back to their old demand of live streaming and video recording, is something that will depend on whether this meeting happens or not. Now, obviously, the government has made it clear that it's been trying to get them to dialogue, but they haven't really come to the dialogue table. The doctors say they still feel insecure. There have been attacks on doctors otherwise also. So these are still in the sort of, discussion stage. The doctors are meeting amongst themselves to decide whether they will go or not for the meeting. And of course, that's the latest that we have from here as far as this meeting between the Chief Secretary, the Chief Minister, and the striking doctors is concerned. Remember, Mamata Banerjee on Saturday had also made a surprise move of actually visiting the Dharna site and speaking to the doctors herself. And that, of course, is something that happened on Saturday. But now, of course, whether the doctors respond to the overtures, multiple overtures from the state government or not, is something that is being discussed by the doctors themselves. And we should know shortly what they do.
Right. And Saurabh, it's incumbent upon the government to be able to come out and fix this issue, because the Supreme Court has also put the ball, so to speak, in the West Bengal government's court, that it is now incumbent upon them to reach out to the doctors. And, last time around, we know that the talks actually fell through because the government refused to relent on the doctors' demand of a televised, sort of live telecast of the conversation that they were having with Mamata Banerjee. Is that likely to be a sticking point again, or have they moved past that?
Well, it's unclear right now, because there was a climb down by the doctors, and that was the only thing. The other, points that the doctors had raised, for example, removal of DM, officers of the health department, removal of, the Chief Health Secretary, removal of the police commissioner. Those are things that Mamata Banerjee, of course, had ruled out, the removal of the police commissioner, citing Pujos. But otherwise, she had said these other demands would all be looked into in a way that government procedure works. But eventually the doctor, and that, of course, but the doctors had stuck to their demand of live streaming, something that had become a bone of contention. On Saturday, right at the fag end of the, standoff, on Saturday, there was some sort of a climb down, and the doctors had agreed to a meeting without live streaming. But whether they stick to that or whether they get back to their live streaming position is something that we'll know only after the doctors who are meeting amongst themselves decide on what they plan to do next.
Thanks very much, Saurabh, for joining us with the very latest. We're going to keep coming back to you for more updates on that important story.